He was one of the founders of Ann Arbor Spark, along with one of my predecessors, President Coleman, a very successful local economic development organization, and then ran and was successfully elected as Michigan's governor in 2010, and of course re-elected just last year in 2014 for a second term. Despite a tough economic climate, the governor has been a true champion of education at all levels, particularly higher education. He's a self-described tough nerd who has long recognized the importance of IT security. I'll always admire the governor for three things. The first is his first elected office was governor, so why not start at the top? The second is how he gets things done. He's persistent, doesn't matter what the climate is. He's going to work to achieve goals on behalf of the citizens of the state, and I've learned from this. And then finally, I'll always be impressed with how he gets away with public events not wearing a necktie. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Governor Rick Snyder.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back on campus. I love being here, and thanks for that wonderful introduction, Margaret. And it's great to have you as president of the university. So many things about this topic we could talk about, and in many respects, I think I'm preaching to the choir. You wouldn't be here today if you didn't understand and appreciate the importance of cybersecurity, and many of you have lived through the challenges. One of the things I always like to start with, though, when I talk about cybersecurity is what got my own interest and why I think it's so important. Well, first of all, I am proud to say I am a nerd, and one subset of that is being a techie. Technology is something that's critically important, that's transforming our lives. And it's not going to go backward. It's only going to continue to advance in terms of the speed of connectivity, how we connect, the way we're all interconnected in this world. And I'm very much proud of it. And I've helped push the state of Michigan, the state government in particular, to be much more proactive and aggressive in terms of doing those things, in terms of moving that forward. And it's working. But if you stop for a second and say, okay, that's great. You're actually making us more connected. You're doing all these great things. You also have to do it in a responsible fashion. And that's where I emphasize cybersecurity. For everything we do to say we're advancing information technology to take that to the next level, I think it's equally important that there's also a corresponding effort to encourage better cybersecurity. Because we're creating potential risk and issues by doing more in information technology, we have to do it in a thoughtful, responsible fashion. And the challenges are there in cybersecurity. It's amazing that the state of Michigan alone, we've seen a huge escalation in the number of times we're attacked. One, I think there are more attacks, but secondly, we're getting better at recognizing we're attacked. So I think in many cases, we probably were being attacked and we didn't even know it. I bet that's still going on to some degree. You know what the number is in terms of daily attacks on the state of Michigan government right now? It's about 2.5 million a day, to put it in context for you. That's why this is important. What are the risks of having a cybersecurity breach? A lot of people don't take the time to actually analyze that. I view it as fairly straightforward. There are at least 3 critical areas that if you have a breach of cybersecurity, here's what you have at risk. First of all, confidential information. The whole area of confidentiality. There is critical information that should be kept private. Think about healthcare. All the issues of your medical records and your healthcare. The second one is the whole issue of integrity of data. How much of your financial information is out there in the world? How much of your personal background and information is with the state of Michigan or some record keeper like us? And what would happen if someone could go in and change that information? What impact would that have on your life? And then accessibility. Can you get that information when you need it? And if there's a cyber threat, if that information is not available, you may not be able to go buy dinner tonight or go do a transaction in some fashion. So if you think about it, those 3 critical areas are things we really need to be concerned with. And not only do I view that at personal, at a state of Michigan level, but it's a personal issue. I bet many of us here, how many people here have had some kind of breach that you're aware of your own information? Raise your hand. Most of the hands are up, folks. I remember I've had someone steal my identity at one point in time. They apparently got my credit card number. I remember for several years I had to go get my credit record every so often and learn about this apartment in Washington, D.C. I had that I never occupied, nor did I actually know about until I pulled my credit report. And that people were doing business until you get those notices that you were behind on some debt you owed that you never incurred because someone else had taken your credit card. One of the classics, and I'll share one more story with you, this was actually at home. I think I am a pretty good techie, so when I set up our house, I actually set up a separate computer for the kids. So we had a computer for my wife and I to be online, and I knew the kids were, this was back when they were elementary, middle school age. I knew they'd probably be going to websites and they'd click on things, again, that would get in trouble in some fashion. So I said, here's your computer. And I did all the normal firewall stuff. I'm pretty good. I'm not a real IT person, but I thought I did pretty good protection. Well, after a while, it started running really slow, this computer. So I called in my own help. I called in expertise from the community here to come help me figure this out. And even they couldn't figure it out at first. So we kept going. We all knew something wasn't right. Finally, we found something good enough to figure out. And you know what was going on? It had been hijacked. And that there was a Korean version of DOS actually running in the background on that computer. And it was doing processing for someone. Those are the kind of issues and risks we face today. So what do you do about it? You have to be proactive. And I'm proud to say, at the state of Michigan, I think we're a leader in this country in terms of helping do it in terms of the public sector. And there are at least 4 areas you need to focus on. First of all, we need leadership in this area. We need people standing up to talk about this. One of the things you'll find quite often, and I bet it's true with some of your organizations, is you're working hard on cybersecurity, but you don't want to really tell anyone. Because you figure if you tell someone, you might make yourself a bigger target. I appreciate that. That's not something to be ignored. But if we really have a problem in our country, we have to be open and honest to say, how do we work together to solve that problem? So we do need leadership. And I view the state of Michigan, we have a role to be that leader. We can be a clearinghouse, a coordinator, a place to rally people together to work on issues like this. The next one is the whole issue of prevention. How do you do prevention? I'm sure you've talked about that today. A lot of it is really simple stuff. To get the average computer user just to do some simple things. Password, there's a novel idea. It was great. We did an employee suggestion program in the state of Michigan where we actually did this in kind of a game sharing fashion. We opened it up to all of them to send in ideas, and then we had people vote on the ideas. We had 3 winning ideas. One of the winners was put the name of the place on Pure Michigan billboards to where that place actually is. There was a common sense one. But one of the other winners was, a person wrote in, and I gave him courage for writing in saying, can I get one password? Because I've got about 15 passwords, so I just write them on a sheet of paper and put it on my terminal, my monitor. Oh my gosh. So these are the kind of things that we can work with people on. And so how do you do easy to use training that's actually kind of fun? And I'm proud to say we've got some things at the state we actually do that I enjoy doing. We get them about every 6 weeks to 2 months where a lesson comes in. It's an interactive lesson, and I actually enjoy doing it, and I still learn stuff. So prevention is this huge issue in terms of working through that. Now, what do you do if you actually have a problem? Detection, to find that problem. And I mentioned how we get attacked so many times at the state. We continuously need to update our detection tools. But we actually need to do a better job of coordinating when one of us is hit to say that is probably also going on with other people. So one of the things we're trying to do is really create a cyber command center kind of environment so organizations can feel comfortable contacting the state in some fashion to say, hey, we're getting this kind of attack. So we can be on the lookout and let other places know to be on the same lookout for the same kind of issue to help detect these kind of issues. And then finally, what do you do to deal with it once you've been attacked? How do you get restored? How do you get back up? And that's an area I think we're woefully inadequate, that we need a lot more work to be done. Because I don't think most organizations are really fully prepared to respond if they had a huge attack happen to them. Again, the smaller ones we can manage. But if we had a big one, or we had one that affected sectors of our economy or something, we are not prepared for that, in my view. One of the things we're trying to do, just to start the seeds of this being planned, we created the Civilian Cyber Corps here in Michigan. And I encourage you to sign up for it, or people in your organization to sign up. So what we said is can we go out to the private sector, the public sector, find individuals that are willing to sign up to say they can work with their organization. And if we really had a broader attack, they would be available to come help someone else. Because no organization is going to have all the resources they need to respond to restoring themselves if it's a full-blown attack. And we're going to need to help one another. So we want to start this as a precursor organization. Long-term, I believe it'll actually literally become part of the National Guard. Not with weapons, traditional weapons, but with people that have cyber skills. I think that's the kind of attitude we need to approach this with. And so we're doing 10 regional teams. We're actually doing teams in automotive, financial, 2 or 3 other areas to say we have specialty teams that can go help companies or organizations that are being assaulted in some fashion when they've been hit. So this is the kind of framework we need to build on. And that's why I want to thank you for having this session today. This is the positive steps we need to take. Having open dialogue. Talking about the issues each one of us has, because they're a lot more common than we probably acknowledge. Talking about how we can learn best practices in terms of education, in terms of prevention and detection. And then let's talk about how we can respond together to understand that we're in this together. So I want to thank you for having this session. I hope my information has been helpful to you. This is the kind of effort that I can tell you, in terms of a national security issue, I view this as one of the greatest national security threats we have, in terms of true risk to our country. The information technology age is absolutely incredible. I'm so excited to be part of it. Many of us have grown up with it. I was joking earlier, I remember doing punch cards here, learning COBOL. We've come a long way from those days. Now we live with our electronics. But as we live with these electronics, let's show the rest of our citizens that we can help keep them safe from having major issues because of these wonderful devices that we have. Thank you so much.